Lily Chen had learned 3 important things during her 12 years on New Haven. Never trust the weather forecasts, always carry a backup power cell, and never ever leave Rascal alone near food supplies. She was currently failing at the 3rd rule as her honey badger companion tore through a crate of dried fruits in the colony storage bay. Rascal. No. Lily grabbed at the muscular animal, but he simply grunted and kept eating. His black and white striped back rippled with muscle as he demolished another package. Those are for the whole settlement. The settlement of New Haven sat on the edge of explored space, far from Earth and even farther from any help. 300 families had come here seeking freedom from corporate control and government restrictions. They grew their own food, built their own homes, and asked nothing from anyone. Lily's parents had been part of the original landing crew. Back before the accident that left her in the care of old Mr. Patterson, the colony's engineer, Rascal, finally looked up at her, his small dark eyes showing absolutely no guilt. Bits of dried mango clung to his whiskers. Lily sighed and scratched behind his ears. She had found him 2 years ago, injured and alone after his mother was killed by a native predator. Dr. Rivera, the colony's only medical officer, had used some experimental healing serum on him, something about accelerated cellular regeneration. It had worked maybe too well. Rascal healed from injuries that should have killed him, and his already fearless nature became even more pronounced. Come on, troublemaker. Let's go before someone catches us. She headed for the door, and Rascal trotted after her, his stocky body moving with surprising grace. They had barely stepped outside when the sky changed. A shadow fell across the entire settlement as something massive blocked out the sun. Lily looked up and felt her stomach drop. A ship hung in the atmosphere, so large it seemed impossible. The vessel was elegant in a way human ships never were, all smooth curves and gleaming silver surfaces. Lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Alarms started wailing across the colony. People ran from their homes, pointing and shouting. Rascal pressed against Lily's leg, growling low in his chest. His hackles rose along his back. Attention, primitive settlement. The voice boomed from every speaker in the colony, translated into perfect English by technology Lily could not imagine. This world has been claimed by the Galactic Coalition. You will prepare for relocation assessment. Mr. Patterson found Lily in the growing crowd. His weathered face was tight with worry. Get to the shelter, kid. This doesn't look good. But Lily was already moving toward the edge of the settlement, toward the open field where a smaller craft was descending. Rascal followed, his growl growing louder. They hid behind a broken harvester as the shuttle landed, its engines washing the field with strange blue light. The boarding ramp lowered, and beings walked out that made Lily's breath catch. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Their skin was pale purple and covered in fine scales. Their heads were elongated with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. They wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The tallest of them stepped forward. I am Captain Dren of the Coalition Scout Fleet. Your species is unknown to our records. You will submit to cataloging and assessment. Mr. Patterson had arrived with several other adults. This is our world. We settled it legally under Earth colonial law. Dren's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. Earth law holds no authority in Coalition space. You are primitive squatting on a strategic resource planet. Be grateful we offer relocation rather than elimination. Lily felt anger burn in her chest. Rascal's growl turned into a snarl. She put a hand on his head, trying to keep him calm, but she understood his fury. These aliens thought they could just take everything. The adults argued with Dren while more aliens emerged from the shuttle. They carried strange devices, scanning the buildings and equipment. One of them approached the broken harvester where Lily hid. She pressed herself flat against the metal, holding Rascal tight. The alien scanner beeped. It reached around the harvester with a 3-fingered hand. Rascal moved like lightning. His jaws clamped onto the alien's wrist and his claws dug into its arm. The creature shrieked and stumbled backward. Rascal did not let go. He shook his head violently, the way he did when killing the tunnel rats that plagued the colony. Weapons fire! Defensive positions! Dren shouted. The other aliens pulled out devices that crackled with energy. Lily did not think. She ran toward the shuttle, Rascal now racing beside her, his muzzle stained with purple blood. The aliens were focused on the colonists, trying to determine where the attack had come from. She and Rascal slipped up the boarding ramp and into the alien ship. Inside was a nightmare of incomprehensible technology. Screens showed symbols that made her eyes water. The air tasted like copper and ozone. Rascal sniffed everything, leaving dirty paw prints on surfaces that probably cost more than the entire colony. Lily found what looked like a control station. A data crystal sat in an open slot, pulsing with light. She grabbed it, stuffing it into her jacket pocket. Alarms immediately began shrieking inside the shuttle. "Intruder! Secure the craft!" Dren's voice echoed through the ship. Lily ran for the ramp, but aliens were already boarding. She spotted an emergency panel like the ones on human ships and slammed her fist into it. A side hatch blew open with explosive force, creating a new exit. She and Rascal jumped out, landing hard in the dirt. They ran for the colony buildings as energy weapons fired behind them, scorching the ground. The next hours were chaos. The aliens searched the settlement but found no trace of the crystal or the small human who had stolen it. Dren eventually gave up and returned to his ship, but not before delivering a final warning. "The Coalition will return. Your people have committed an act of theft against a superior power. The punishment will be severe." That night, Lily sat in Mr. Patterson's workshop examining the crystal. When she held it near a computer screen, symbols appeared. She could not read them, but she understood enough. Maps, military positions, planned invasion routes. This was not a first contact mission. It was a scouting operation for conquest. Rascal lay at her feet, already asleep and snoring. He had bitten an alien, stolen classified data, and escaped without a scratch. Just another day for him. Lily looked at the crystal and knew their lives had just become infinitely more complicated. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and it had noticed her. She and Rascal were now fugitives from an interstellar government they had not even known existed until this morning. She smiled, despite everything. If the galaxy thought humans were primitive and easy to control, they had another thing coming. And if they thought one kid and her honey badger would be easy to catch, well, they were about to learn a very important lesson about Earth creatures. They did not give up, and they definitely did not give in. 3 weeks had passed since Lily and Rascal became the galaxy's most wanted criminals, and they were currently hiding inside a ventilation shaft on Trader's Rest Station, watching a dozen bounty hunters argue in 6 different languages below them. The human child cannot have gone far. A tall insectoid creature clicked through its mandibles. "This station has limited exits." "You said that on the last 3 stations, Krill." A blob-like being rippled with what might have been frustration. "Perhaps the Deathworld spawn is more capable than you calculate." Lily held her breath and kept one hand on Rascal's back. The honey badger was tense but quiet, which meant he was seconds away from doing something violent. She had learned to read his moods like other kids read books. Right now he was in his "I am going to bite someone very soon" mood. Getting off New Haven had been the easy part. Mr. Patterson had friends, smuggler types who asked few questions and cared less about coalition law. They had delivered Lily and Rascal to the Outer Rim, the wild border region where criminal enterprises thrived, and governmental authority was a suggestion rather than a rule. The hard part was staying hidden when her face was apparently on every bounty board in known space. 50,000 credits. That was what the Coalition had offered for her capture. Alive only, which was something of a relief. The crystal she had stolen was worth far more than money, it seemed. She had shown it to a data broker on the first station, and the alien had gone pale, which was impressive considering its skin was naturally orange. "That is military intelligence data," the broker had whispered. "Class 5 restricted." "Where did you get this?" "Borrowed it," Lily had said. "Borrowed." The broker had made a choking sound. "Child, this contains invasion plans for 17 star systems. If this information became public, it would destabilize the entire Coalition power structure. You are carrying a political bomb. And now everyone wanted that bomb, along with the human girl who carried it." Rascal growled softly, and Lily clamped her hand over his snout. Below, the bounty hunters were splitting up to search the station sectors. Krill, the insectoid leader, was methodical and patient. He had nearly caught them twice already. The first time, Rascal had bitten through a hydraulic line, flooding the corridor with fluid. The second time, Lily had started a small fire in a trash compactor as a distraction. They were running out of tricks. When the hunters finally moved on, Lily and Rascal dropped from the vent and headed for the lower markets. Trader's Rest was a massive structure, a converted asteroid that housed thousands of beings from hundreds of species. The market sold everything from food to weapons to information. all under flickering lights that gave Lily constant headaches. She needed supplies. More importantly, she needed help. "You look lost, little human." The voice came from a stall selling what looked like mechanical parts. The speaker was human, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair tied back and scars crossing his dark skin. "Not many of our kind out here in the Rim." Lily hesitated. Trusting strangers had not worked out well lately. But this man had kind eyes and she was desperate. "I'm looking for passage to the inner systems. Are you now?" The man, whose sign identified him as Station Master Ortega, smiled slightly. "Wouldn't have anything to do with that rather impressive bounty, would it?" Lily's hand moved to the knife in her belt. Rascal positioned himself between her and Ortega, hackles rising. Ortega raised his hands peacefully. "Easy, both of you. I'm not turning you in. I left Earth specifically to get away from governments telling me what to do. I'm not about to help the Coalition do the same thing." He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "But you should know, kid. There are 3 hunter teams on this station right now. Krill's bugs, a hive pack, and something called a void tracker that I really don't want to meet. You need to leave soon." "I have money," Lily started, but Ortega waved her off. "Keep it. There's a cargo hauler in Bay 17, captain named Davis. Tell him I sent you. He owes me enough favors that he will not ask questions." Ortega paused. "What did you do to make the Coalition so angry anyway?" "I found out they were planning to invade the Outer Rim," Lily said quietly. "Enslave or relocate everyone living here. Your home included." Ortega's expression went hard. "Is that so?" He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Bay 17. Go now, and kid, don't trust anyone who says they're on your side. Out here, loyalty costs money and you can't afford enough to buy it." Lily and Rascal moved through the crowded market, trying to blend in. It was difficult when you were the only human child, and traveling with an Earth animal that made every alien they passed stop and stare. Rascal had gotten bigger over the weeks, his body filling out with muscle and attitude. He walked like he owned every space he entered, completely unafraid of the creatures 10 times his size. They were 3 corridors from Bay 17 when Krill found them. Surrender peacefully. Human child. The insectoid blocked their path, his 4 arms spread wide. 2 other hunters flanked him, both heavily armed. "The Coalition wants you unharmed, but my contract allows for reasonable force." Rascal snarled and charged before Lily could even react. The honey badger hit Krill low, claws shredding through the alien's leg armor like it was paper. Krill shrieked and stumbled. One of his companions fired a stun weapon, but Rascal was already moving, too fast and too low to target easily. Lily ran the opposite direction, drawing the hunters away from Rascal. It was their standard tactic now. Split up, cause chaos, regroup later. She ducked into a side passage and nearly collided with another hunter. This one a massive reptilian creature with too many teeth. "Gotcha. Little mammal," it hissed, reaching for her. Lily kicked hard at its knee joint. The creature barely noticed. Its clawed hand closed around her arm and she felt her feet leave the ground. The hunter lifted her up, examining her like a curious specimen. Such a tiny thing to cause such large problems. Something brown and furious landed on the hunter's head. Rascal had found them, and he was angry. His claws dug into the reptilian's skull while his teeth sought any vulnerable spot. The hunter roared and slammed backward into the wall, trying to crush the honey badger. Rascal held on. He always held on. The hunter dropped Lily to deal with Rascal. She rolled and came up running, but looked back in time to see Rascal finally lose his grip. He hit the floor hard and the hunter raised a massive foot to stomp him flat. "Rascal!" Lily screamed. The honey badger rolled aside, the foot missing him by inches. He came up snarling and launched himself again, this time at the hunter's throat. His teeth found a vital artery. Purple blood sprayed across the corridor walls. Lily grabbed Rascal as the hunter fell, dying. They ran together, covered in alien blood, leaving chaos behind them. Alarms wailed through the station. More hunters would come. They always did. Bay 17 was a small docking port servicing a battered freighter that had seen better decades. A human woman stood by the loading ramp checking a tablet. She looked up as Lily and Rascal approached, took in their blood-stained appearance, and sighed. "Ortega sent you." It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am. He said Captain Davis might help." "I'm Davis." The woman gestured to the ramp. "Get aboard before station security decides to investigate that mess you made. And clean up your animal. He's tracking blood everywhere." Inside the ship, Lily finally allowed herself to breathe. Rascal was already exploring, sniffing every corner and marking territory. Davis sealed the airlock and started pre-flight procedures. "You know you're probably going to get me killed, right?" Davis said conversationally. "I'm sorry," Lily said. "I didn't ask for any of this. Nobody ever does, kid." Davis pulled up a star chart. "Where are we going?" Lily thought about the data crystal in her pocket, about the invasion plans that could save thousands of lives if the right people saw them, about how the galaxy thought humans were weak and primitive, about how everyone underestimated a 12-year-old girl and her honey badger. "Somewhere we can make a difference," she said finally. Davis smiled grimly. "That's the most dangerous destination there is. Buckle up, this is going to get rough." Crossroads Station floated in neutral space, belonging to no government and answering to no authority except profit and survival. Lily thought it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen, which said a lot about how the past month had changed her standards. The massive wheel-shaped structure glowed with millions of lights, each one representing a shop, home, or business where beings from across the galaxy came to trade, hide, or reinvent themselves. "Stay close and keep that animal under control," Captain Davis warned as they walked down the docking ramp. "Crossroads has rules and breaking them gets you spaced without trial." Rascal trotted beside Lily, his small dark eyes taking in everything. He had calmed down since their escape from Trader's Rest, mostly because Davis had been smart enough to feed him regularly. A fed rascal was a slightly less dangerous rascal. Only slightly, though. The main concourse was overwhelming. Beings of every size, shape, and configuration moved through the wide corridors. Lily saw creatures that looked like walking plants, others that seemed to be made of pure energy contained in environmental suits, and several that defied any description her 12-year-old brain could manage. The air smelled like a combination of spices, ozone, and things she could not identify. "There's someone here who wants to meet you," Davis said, leading them deeper into the station. "A doctor who studies Earth biology. She reached out after seeing reports about your friend there." Rascal chose that moment to investigate a food cart, his nose twitching at the smell of roasted meat. The cart's owner, a being with too many tentacles, shrieked and scrambled backward. Other pedestrians gave them a wide berth, some actually fleeing. Lily was used to this reaction now. Apparently, most alien species found honey badgers absolutely terrifying. Davis grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her into a side corridor before station security could arrive. They navigated through maintenance passages until reaching a door marked with symbols Lily could not read. Davis knocked twice, paused, then knocked 3 more times. The door opened to reveal a human woman in her 30s, wearing a lab coat covered in stains that were probably not blood, but might be. Her red hair was pulled into a messy bun and her green eyes widened with delight when she saw Rascal. "Oh my God, it's real. An actual Mellivora capensis enhanced variant." Dr. Rivers dropped to her knees, studying Rascal with scientific fascination. "The report said you had a honey badger, but I thought it was mistranslation. Do you have any idea how the galaxy is reacting to this creature?" "They mostly run away," Lily said, with good reason. Dr. Rivers stood up, practically vibrating with excitement. Come in. I have so much to explain." Her laboratory was chaos organized by a logic only she understood. Screens displayed data on hundreds of species. Biological samples filled refrigeration units. In one corner, a small garden grew plants from various worlds. Dr. Rivers cleared a space on a table and pulled up a holographic display. "What do you know about galactic biology?" she asked Lily. "Nothing? Perfect, I love teaching from scratch." Dr. Rivers manipulated the display, showing images of different aliens. 97% of sapient species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals. Herbivores, scavengers, creatures that survive by hiding or running. Only 3% come from predator stock, and most of those are ambush hunters or pack hunters with strong social hierarchies. She pulled up an image that made Lily's stomach turn. It showed Rascal frozen in mid-attack, his teeth bared and claws extended. Humans and their companion animals represent something the galaxy has never encountered. Persistence predators, with tool-using intelligence and absolutely no instinctive fear response. "Your honey badger there? He has a reputation now." "What kind of reputation?" Dr. Rivers laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "He's killed 4 bounty hunters, injured 17 others, and somehow survived encounters that should have been fatal. The galactic networks are calling him the Deathworld Beast. There are betting pools on how long until he kills someone important. You're famous too, by the way. The human child who rides the beast. Lily looked at Rascal, who was currently trying to eat a potted plant. They think I ride him? Translations are imperfect and most species can't comprehend the human-animal bond. They think you've somehow dominated a killing machine and bent it to your will. Dr. Rivers grew serious. Lily, you need to understand something. The galaxy is terrified of Earth. Not because we're more advanced or stronger, but because we evolved alongside predators and became the apex predator ourselves. The fact that you have a creature that fights like Rascal as a pet, that confirms every nightmare they have about humanity. Before Lily could respond, the door burst open. A tall alien entered, moving with the careful grace of someone used to being watched. Its skin was a deep blue and its body was vaguely humanoid but too thin, like someone had stretched a person vertically. Two large eyes dominated its face, showing intelligence and worry in equal measure. Ambassador Trill, Dr. Rivers said, surprised. I didn't expect you so soon. The situation has accelerated. Trill's voice was melodious, almost musical. It looked at Lily with those enormous eyes. You are the child who stole coalition invasion plans. It was not a question. Lily's hand moved to her pocket where the crystal rested, but she knew she could not fight her way out if this went wrong. Rascal sensed her tension and growled, positioning himself protectively. Please do not be alarmed, Trill said quickly. I am not your enemy. I represent the Free Worlds Coalition, a group of systems that resist the main coalition's expansion. We have been searching for proof of their invasion plans for months. You have found it in weeks. Why should I trust you? Lily asked. You should not, Trill said simply. Trust must be earned. But consider this, I could have brought security forces. I could have simply taken the crystal by force. Instead, I am here alone, asking for your help. The ambassador sat down, folding its long limbs carefully. The main coalition is built on a lie. They claim to bring order and civilization to primitive species. In truth, they subjugate any world they deem valuable, either through political pressure or military force. The Outer Rim is next. Dr. Rivers brought up the star map from the crystal. The invasion routes glowed red against the darkness of space. If this information goes public, it could stop the invasion, maybe even fracture the coalition itself. But releasing it makes me an even bigger target, Lily said. Yes, Trill admitted. It also makes you a symbol. A human child standing against an empire. There are others who want to fight back, but they need proof that the coalition can be opposed. They need hope. The door opened again, and this time a human man entered, older than Dr. Rivers, with scars across his face and a military bearing that reminded Lily of old vids from Earth. Hope is great, he said, but what they really need is a plan. This is Gray, Trill said. Former coalition soldier, current revolutionary, and someone who knows their military systems better than anyone. Gray nodded to Lily, then knelt to look at Rascal eye to eye. The honey badger stared back, unblinking and unimpressed. After a moment, Gray smiled. I've seen the videos of your fights. You're quite something, little guy. Rascal yawned, showing all his teeth, and wandered off to investigate the laboratory. I have forces, Gray said, standing. Resistance fighters across a dozen worlds. But we've been operating in the shadows, hitting small targets, barely making a difference. With those invasion plans, we could mount a real defense. We could even go on the offensive. He looked at Lily seriously. But I will not lie to you. This path leads to war. People will die. Probably a lot of people. Lily thought about New Haven, about Mr. Patterson and the other colonists who just wanted to live free. She thought about all the other settlements in the Outer Rim, families who would be enslaved or killed if the coalition invaded. She thought about how the galaxy saw humans as primitive and weak. What do you need from me? She asked. Trill and Gray exchanged glances. First, we need to copy that crystal and distribute it through secure channels, Trill said. Then we need you to do something incredibly dangerous. We need you to appear on galactic media and tell your story. They will kill me, Lily said flatly. They will try, Gray agreed. But you will have protection. My people, Trill's diplomatic immunity, and something the coalition fears. He gestured to Rascal, who had found Dr. Rivers's lunch and was eating it despite her protests. They are afraid of what you represent. Use that fear. Dr. Rivers put a hand on Lily's shoulder. You're 12 years old. You should be in school playing with friends, worried about homework, not making decisions about interstellar war. If you say no, I will help you hide. We will find a way to keep you safe. Lily looked at each of them in turn, an alien diplomat risking execution for treason, a human scientist studying the biology of courage, a former soldier turned rebel, and Captain Davis still standing by the door, ready to fly Lily anywhere she needed to go. She thought about Rascal, who had never backed down from anything in his entire life, who fought creatures 10 times his size without hesitation, who trusted her completely. "Okay," she said, "let's do it. But I have one condition." "Name it," Trill said. "When this is over, when the galaxy knows the truth, I want to go home. Back to New Haven. No more running, no more hiding. Just a normal life." Gray smiled sadly. "Kid, after what we're about to do, you will never have a normal life again. But if we win, you will have something better. You will have freedom." Rascal chose that moment to burp loudly, having finished Dr. Rivers' entire lunch. The sound broke the tension, and despite everything, Lily laughed. Whatever came next, at least she would not face it alone. Prime Sanctuary was supposed to be impenetrable. The Coalition's Central Intelligence Headquarters sat on a fortress world protected by enough firepower to vaporize entire fleets. Security systems monitored every centimeter of space around the planet. Nothing got in or out without approval from the highest levels of command. The Coalition had spent centuries making sure their secrets stayed secret. They had not planned for a 12-year-old girl and her honey badger. Lily lay in the cargo hold of a transport ship, squeezed between shipping containers, trying not to think about all the ways this plan could fail. Beside her, Rascal slept peacefully, his body warm against her side. She had no idea how he could sleep at a time like this, but then again, Rascal had never shown fear of anything in his entire life. 5 minutes to landing. A voice whispered through her earpiece. Ghost, the Resistance's digital warfare expert, was somewhere in the ship's computer system, hiding their presence from Coalition scanners. "Remember, once you're inside, I can't help you. The facility's network is isolated." "Understood," Lily whispered back. The plan was insane, which Gray had assured her was why it might actually work. Coalition intelligence did not expect direct assaults on their headquarters. They watched for large-scale attacks, fleet movements, cyber intrusions from outside. They were not watching for a small human and an even smaller honey badger hiding in a shipment of office supplies. Pilot Reeves, a human smuggler with more luck than sense, was flying the transport. He had gotten them through 3 security checkpoints already, by bribing the right people and having perfectly forged credentials. One more checkpoint and they would be on the surface. "Checkpoint 4 approaching," Reeves said over the comm. "This is the big one. Stay quiet, stay hidden, and pray they don't scan too deep." Lily held her breath as the ship slowed. She heard voices outside, speaking in Coalition standard, footsteps on the cargo ramp. Her heart hammered so hard she was sure the guards could hear it. Rascal's eyes opened. He looked at her calmly, then put his head back down. If he was not worried, maybe she should not be either. "Cargo manifest checks out," a guard said. "Proceed to landing pad 7. The ship moved again. They had made it. 20 minutes later, Lily and Rascal crawled out of their hiding spot in a storage facility deep inside the Coalition headquarters complex. The building was massive, all gleaming white walls and impossibly high ceilings. Aliens in military uniforms hurried past on important business, none of them looking down at the ventilation grate where 2 Earth creatures waited. "Phase 2, Lily whispered to Rascal, "just like we practiced." They had spent a week on Crossroads Station preparing for this. Dr. Rivers had mapped the entire facility using stolen blueprints. Gray had drilled Lily on Coalition security protocols. Trill had taught her how to move like the prey species that made up most of the galaxy's population. Head down, shoulders hunched, projecting submission and fear. Humans were not built for that kind of body language, but Lily was a good actress when lives depended on it. The ventilation system became their highway. Rascal led the way, his compact body perfect for the tight spaces. Lily followed, trusting his instincts. They crawled through darkness, navigating by the building plans Lily had memorized and the small light on her wrist device. "Left at the next junction," she whispered. "Then up 3 levels." They were heading for the central data core where the Coalition kept intelligence gathered from across the galaxy. Gray needed information on military deployments, weapon stockpiles, and secret diplomatic agreements. With that data, the Resistance could plan real operations instead of just causing small disruptions. But first, they had to get inside. The ventilation shaft ended at a grate overlooking a massive server room. Lily peered through the gaps, counting guards. 6 visible, probably more she could not see. The servers themselves were arranged in rows, glowing with soft blue light and humming with activity. In the center of the room sat a terminal with direct access to everything. "Okay," Lily whispered to Rascal. "This is the hard part." She had a data spike that Ghost had prepared, designed to create a copy of the entire database and transmit it to a hidden satellite. All she needed was 30 seconds at that terminal. 30 seconds while surrounded by trained guards in the heart of enemy territory. No pressure. Lily waited until the guard pattern shifted, then carefully removed the ventilation grate. She dropped down silently, years of climbing around New Haven's machinery making her movements confident. She pressed herself against a server rack, waiting. Rascal dropped down beside her with a soft thump. One of the guards turned, suspicious. "Did you hear something?" "Probably just the cooling system," another guard replied. "This place is always making noise." They went back to their conversation. Lily crept forward, Rascal at her heels. The terminal was 10 meters away. 10 meters of open floor where anyone could see her. She made it 5 meters before a guard walked around a server rack directly into her path. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other. The guard's 3 eyes widened in shock. Its mouth opened to shout an alarm. Rascal hit it low and hard, his momentum knocking the guard's legs out from under it. The alien fell with a crash that echoed through the room. Alarms immediately started wailing. Red lights flashed from every surface. "Intruder!" "Seal the room!" a guard shouted. Lily ran. She reached the terminal and jammed the data spike into the port. Text scrolled across the screen in Coalition Standard, downloading terabytes of classified information. The progress bar crept forward with agonizing slowness. 20%. 30%. Guards converged from all directions. Rascal met them with teeth and claws, a furious ball of muscle and rage. He bit through armor, shredded weapons, caused absolute chaos. But there were too many, and even Rascal could not be everywhere at once. 50%. 60%. A guard grabbed Lily from behind, lifting her off the ground. She kicked and struggled, but its grip was iron strong. Another guard moved to remove the data spike. Rascal appeared on top of a server rack and launched himself through the air. He landed on the guard's head, claws finding eye stalks. The alien shrieked and dropped Lily. She scrambled back to the terminal. 80%. 90%. Stop that download. A new voice cut through the chaos, dripping with authority. "I want that human alive." Admiral Reth entered the server room like a storm made flesh. She was taller than the other guards. Her purple scales edged with silver, denoting high rank. Her 3 eyes focused on Lily with predatory intensity, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. 100%. Download complete. Lily yanked the data spike from the terminal and ran. Reth moved to intercept, faster than anything that size should move. Her hand shot out, grabbing Lily's jacket. The fabric tore, but Reth's grip held. "Foolish child," Reth hissed. "Did you think you could invade Coalition intelligence itself and escape?" Lily looked up at the Admiral with all the courage she could find. "I think you underestimate humans." "Humans?" Reth laughed coldly. "You are primitives playing at rebellion. When we find your pathetic colonies, we will crush them. We will enslave your people. We will—" Rascal hit Reth from behind. The Admiral was trained for combat, enhanced with military augmentations, and protected by the finest armor Coalition technology could produce. None of it mattered. Rascal's claws found gaps in the armor. His teeth found soft tissue. Most importantly, his absolute fearlessness found the one thing that could shatter Reth's confidence. An opponent who did not care about size, rank, or consequence. Reth screamed and threw Rascal off, but the honey badger twisted in midair and landed on his feet. He charged again immediately, relentless and unstoppable. Lily ran for the ventilation shaft. Guards fired stun weapons, but Rascal was between her and them, drawing all their attention. She climbed back into the shaft and turned to look back. Rascal stood in the center of the room, surrounded by guards and facing Admiral Reth. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His fur was matted with purple and red blood mixed together. He was outnumbered 20-1. He looked absolutely delighted. "Rascal, come on," Lily shouted. The honey badger took one last swipe at Reth, leaving new scars across her face, then turned and bounded toward the shaft. Guards lunged after him, but he was too quick, too low to the ground, too absolutely determined. He launched himself upward and Lily grabbed him, pulling him into the shaft. Behind them, Reth roared in fury. "Seal all exits! I want that deathworld beast and its human dead." Lily and Rascal crawled through the ventilation system as fast as they could move. Behind them, they heard guards cutting through walls trying to intercept. Above them, security drones scanned for heat signatures. Left, then right, then straight for 50 meters, Lily panted, reciting the escape route from memory. They emerged in a waste processing facility, dropping into a pile of recyclables that cushioned their fall. Reeves was waiting with a maintenance vehicle, his face pale with fear. "Get in! The whole facility is on lockdown." They piled into the vehicle. Reeves drove like he was trying to break the land speed record, weaving through service corridors. Security checkpoints were activating everywhere, but Ghost was working magic with the electronic systems, opening doors just in time and changing their security codes in the database. They made it to the landing pad where Reeves's ship waited. They made it aboard and into space. They made it past the orbital defenses because Ghost had convinced the computers they were a priority medical transport. Only when they reached the jump point did Lily finally allow herself to believe they had succeeded. She looked at Rascal, who was already licking his wounds, and smiled. "Good boy." The data spike sat on a table in a hidden resistance base, glowing softly in the dim light. Around it, representatives from 17 different species argued in 9 different languages about what to do with the information it contained. Lily sat in the corner with Rascal, watching beings who had spent their lives fighting the Coalition suddenly face the reality of open war. "If we release this, the Coalition will retaliate," a 4-armed delegate said nervously. "They will make examples of our worlds." "They're already planning to invade," Gray countered, pulling up the stolen maps. "The only question is whether we fight back while we still can." The meeting had been going for 6 hours. Lily was tired, hungry, and starting to understand why revolutions moved so slowly. Everyone wanted freedom, but nobody wanted to be the first to really fight for it. Ambassador Trill stood, silencing the room with a gesture. "We have debated long enough. The question before us is simple. Do we trust the galaxy to care about truth, or do we accept that might makes right?" Trill looked directly at Lily. "This child risked everything to bring us this information. The least we can do is use it." "The child is a symbol," another delegate argued. "A human with a deathworld predator as a pet. The Coalition will use that against us, paint the Resistance as violent savages aligned with dangerous primitives." Lily felt her temper flare. She stood up and Rascal immediately came to her side. "I'm 12 years old, not deaf. And humans aren't primitive. We're just different. Is that such a crime?" The room fell silent. Several delegates looked away, uncomfortable. "No," Trill said softly. "It is not a crime to be different. But the Coalition has spent centuries teaching the galaxy to fear difference. That is what we must overcome." 3 days later, the data went public. Ghost released it through every news network, every public forum, every communications channel in known space. The Coalition tried to suppress it, but the information spread too fast, copied and shared millions of times in the first hour alone. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds suddenly saw proof of what they had long suspected. The Coalition was not bringing order and civilization. It was building an empire on lies and conquest. The galaxy exploded. Protests erupted on Coalition member worlds. Independent systems declared their support for the Resistance. Ships began deserting the Coalition fleet, their crews refusing to fight in an unjust war. And in the center of it all, one image appeared on every screen. A human child standing with a honey badger, both staring defiantly at the camera. Lily watched herself on the newsfeed with a mix of pride and horror. Trill had convinced her to record a message explaining how she had discovered the truth, how the Coalition had threatened her home, how she and Rascal had stolen the data. The video had been viewed 3 billion times in 2 days. "You're famous," Dr. Rivers said, bringing Lily a meal in the safe house where they were hiding. "There are songs being written about you, art installations, political movements using your image." "I just wanted to help," Lily said quietly. "You did more than help. You started a wildfire." Dr. Rivers pulled up another feed, this one showing Coalition propaganda. The images were brutal. Humans portrayed as savage warmongers, honey badgers as mindless killing machines, Earth as a death world that should be quarantined from civilized space. "They're trying to make everyone afraid of us," Lily said. "Of course they are. Fear is easier to control than truth. Dr. Rivers smiled grimly. But fear works both ways. Right now, the coalition leadership is afraid of you. She was right. Over the next week, Lily watched the coalition's response unfold. Chancellor Vorn, the supreme leader, gave speeches calling for unity against the human threat. Military forces mobilized, not for the planned invasion of the Outer Rim, but for defensive positions. They were afraid the resistance might attack coalition core worlds, but the resistance was too busy defending itself. Admiral Reth, her face still scarred from Rascal's claws, led a task force hunting for Lily and the resistance leadership. She burned through 3 star systems, destroying bases and capturing fighters, always one step behind her targets. News feeds showed her standing over captured rebels, promising that the deathworld spawn would be brought to justice. She's making it personal, Gray said, watching the latest report. That's good for us. Angry commanders make mistakes. She wants revenge, Lily said. She wants to restore her reputation. You embarrassed her in front of the entire galaxy. A human child and her pet humiliated the coalition's finest warrior. Gray's expression was thoughtful. We can use that. The assassination attempts started on the 10th day. Lily was eating breakfast in the safe house when the first one came through the window. A small drone armed with poison needles moving in absolute silence. Rascal intercepted it mid-air, his jaws crushing the delicate machinery. The second attempt came 3 hours later, a delivery that exploded when scanned. The third was a shapeshifter who got past security by impersonating Dr. Rivers. Rascal caught that one too, his nose identifying the imposter before it could get close to Lily. They're getting desperate, Trill said after the 4th attempt. The ambassador had become Lily's unofficial guardian, staying close whenever possible. Reth has put every resource into killing you. Why? Lily asked. I'm just one kid. You're a symbol, Trill repeated. Symbols are more dangerous than armies. As long as you live, you prove that the coalition can be opposed. You prove that humans are not primitive. You prove that courage matters more than size or technology. Trill's large eyes were sad. That is why they fear you, and why they will never stop trying to kill you. General Hayes arrived on the 15th day, bringing Earth's entire defense fleet with him. All 7 ships, ancient and outdated compared to coalition vessels, but crewed by humans who were tired of their homeworld being threatened. Hayes was a tall man with iron-gray hair and a voice that could cut through steel. He met with the resistance leadership and made Earth's position clear. We will not surrender our own. We will not abandon our colonies. And we will not let the coalition dictate how humanity participates in galactic civilization. His speech was broadcast across every human settlement, and the response was immediate. Volunteer militia formed on dozens of worlds. Human freighter captains began running weapons and supplies to resistance forces. Even the corporations that normally avoided political conflict started quietly supporting the resistance, recognizing that coalition domination would be bad for business. The galaxy was fracturing along fault lines that had existed for centuries, but never quite broken. Species that resented coalition control found their courage. Independent worlds formed defensive pacts. And everywhere beings looked at the human child who had stood against an empire and wondered if they could do the same. Lily sat in the command center, watching star maps update with new information. Red-marked coalition forces, blue-marked resistance and allied positions, green-marked neutral parties who might swing either way. The colors were mixing, overlapping, creating a chaotic picture that would soon become a war. Are you ready for this? Gray asked quietly. No, Lily admitted. But I don't think anyone ever is. Rascal climbed into her lap, something he rarely did anymore. He was getting bigger, his body thick with muscle from constant training and fighting. But in this moment he was just her friend, offering comfort the only way he knew how. Incoming message, a communications officer called out. It's from Chancellor Vorn himself. He's requesting a direct channel to Lily Chen. The room went silent. Gray and Trill exchanged worried glances. Hayes put a hand on his weapon. Should I answer it? Lily asked. That's your choice, Trill said. But understand that whatever he says, it will be calculated to manipulate you. Lily thought about it, then nodded. Put him through. The screen flickered, and suddenly she was looking at the most powerful being in the known galaxy. Chancellor Vorn was ancient, his scales pale with age, his eyes holding the weight of centuries. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost gentle. Hello, Lily Chen. I wanted to speak with you before more blood is shed. You started this, Lily said, surprised by how steady her voice was. Did I? I thought you started it when you stole Coalition property and spread lies across the galaxy. Bourne smiled, showing teeth. But let us not argue about beginnings. Let us discuss endings. I will offer you a deal, child. Surrender yourself and that dangerous animal. Come to Prime Sanctuary and face trial. In exchange, I will guarantee the safety of New Haven and all other human colonies. Your people will be welcomed into the Coalition as full members, not subjugated territories. And the Resistance? Lily asked. Will be granted amnesty. A fresh start for everyone. Vorn leaned forward. All it costs is you. One small life to save billions. That is a bargain by any measure. Lily looked at the faces around her, Gray shaking his head. Trill's expression unreadable. Hayes looking like he wanted to punch through the screen. Dr. Rivers with tears in her eyes. She looked down at Rascal, who stared back at her with complete trust. No, Lily said firmly. No? Vorn's composure cracked slightly. Child, do you understand what you're refusing? Peace, safety. An end to this conflict before it destroys everything. I understand that you're afraid, Lily said. You're afraid that if one kid with a honey badger can stand up to you, others will too. You're afraid the whole galaxy will realize you're not as powerful as you pretend to be. She stood up, Rascal in her arms. So here's my counteroffer. Surrender. Admit what you've done. Give up power peacefully. Then maybe we can talk about peace. Vorn's face went cold with rage. You have doomed your species, Lily Chen. When we are done, humanity will be nothing but a cautionary tale about the price of arrogance. We'll see, Lily said, and cut the connection. In the silence that followed, Hayes started laughing. It was a deep, genuine sound that filled the room. Kid, you've got more backbone than most of my officers. Was that smart? Lily asked, suddenly uncertain. Smart, probably not, Gray admitted. Necessary? Absolutely. He pulled up the tactical display. Vorn just showed his hand. He's afraid we're winning the propaganda war. That means we push harder. The war of perception continued, but now everyone knew where the lines were drawn. The Coalition could not claim moral authority while threatening to destroy entire species. The Resistance could not be painted as unreasonable terrorists when they had offered the Coalition a chance to surrender peacefully. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a girl and her honey badger became the symbol that neither side could ignore. Unity. One was the last neutral station in the galaxy, floating in the empty space between Coalition territory and the free worlds. It had been built a century ago as a place where conflicts could be resolved through dialogue instead of violence. Now, as ships from both sides of an impending war gathered around it, Unity 1 represented the final chance to prevent a catastrophe that would consume billions of lives. Lily watched through the viewport as another Coalition warship took up position in the blockade. 17 capital ships now surrounded the station, their weapons powered but not yet armed. On the other side of the neutral zone, a ragtag fleet of Resistance and Allied vessels waited, outnumbered 3-1 but refusing to back down. The summit begins in 2 hours, Ambassador Trill said softly. Are you certain you want to do this? Lily looked down at Rascal, who was sleeping peacefully despite the tension filling the station. Over the past months he had grown even larger, his body thick with scars and muscle. He had survived assassins, battles, and Admiral Reth's personal vendetta. He had become famous across the galaxy as the most dangerous animal anyone had ever seen. He was also still the same honey badger who stole her food and demanded belly rubs. I have to, Lily said. This whole thing started because of me. I should be there when it ends. General Hayes entered the waiting area, his uniform crisp despite the days of travel. Behind him came Dr. Rivers and Gray, along with representatives from 24 species who had joined the Resistance. They were Lily's honor guard, there to support her through whatever came next. The Coalition is demanding your surrender before negotiations begin, Hayes said bluntly. Chancellor Vorn claims you're a war criminal who must face justice. What does he claim I did? Lily asked. Theft, espionage, inciting rebellion, and assault on a Coalition officer. Gray smiled without humor. He's technically correct on all counts. Then I'll plead guilty, Lily said. I did all those things. Child, no, Trill protested. If you admit guilt, they will execute you. They'll try to execute me, Lily corrected. But first they have to catch me, and then they have to deal with Rascal. She scratched behind her friend's ears, and he opened one eye, yawned, and went back to sleep. Besides, I'm not the one on trial here. They are. The summit chamber was enormous, designed to hold thousands of representatives in tiered seating that rose toward a domed ceiling. Today it felt oppressively full. Coalition delegates filled one side, their expensive clothing and calm expressions projecting confidence and power. On the other side sat beings from across the galaxy, many of whom had never attended a formal diplomatic function before. They were rougher, more diverse, united only by their opposition to coalition expansion. In the center of the chamber, 3 chairs waited. One for Chancellor Vorn, one for the elected representative of the Free Worlds Coalition, and one, much smaller, for Lily Chen. Lily walked down the central aisle with Rascal at her side. Every eye in the room followed them. Some looked angry, some fearful, some hopeful. She kept her head up and her pace steady, just like Gray had taught her. Show no weakness. Give them no reason to dismiss you. Vorn was already seated, his ancient form draped in ceremonial robes that probably cost more than every ship in the Resistance fleet combined. He watched Lily approach with eyes that held nothing but cold calculation. The Free World's representative was an older female of the Centauri species, her blue skin marked with tattoos denoting battles survived. Her name was Elder Sana, and she had lost 3 children to coalition expansion. She nodded respectfully to Lily as the girl took her seat. A neutral arbitrator, a being of pure energy contained in an environmental suit, began the proceedings. We gather here to prevent war. The coalition claims territorial rights to the Outer Rim and demands the surrender of the fugitive Lily Chen. The Free Worlds claim independence and demand coalition withdrawal from disputed territories. We will hear arguments from both sides. Vorn spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of authority earned over centuries of rule. The coalition has brought order to chaos, civilization to primitives, peace to war-torn regions. For 300 years, we have guided the galaxy toward unity and prosperity. Now we face a crisis manufactured by criminals and agitators who spread lies and propaganda. He pulled up holographic images of battles between coalition forces and resistance fighters. They claim to fight for freedom, but look at the destruction they cause. They claim to seek peace but arm themselves for war. And at the center of this chaos sits a human child who stole classified intelligence, invaded our most secure facility, and assaulted a decorated admiral. Vorn looked directly at Lily. I take no pleasure in calling for the punishment of one so young. But justice must be served. Surrender yourself, confess your crimes, and accept the consequences. Only then can we begin to heal the divisions that threaten to tear our galaxy apart. The coalition delegates applauded. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Elder Sana spoke next, her voice rough with emotion. The Chancellor speaks of order and peace. I speak of my children, taken by coalition relocation programs and never seen again. I speak of worlds stripped of resources, populations enslaved, cultures destroyed, all in the name of unity. She pulled up her own images. Mass graves, burned settlements, beings in chains. The coalition calls it civilization. We call it genocide. And when one human child found proof of their next planned atrocity, they labeled her a criminal rather than admit their crimes. Sana looked at Lily with something like pride. This child has more courage than the entire coalition leadership combined. Now it was the Free World side that applauded. But the sound was different, desperate, hopeful, defiant. The arbitrator turned to Lily. You have been accused of serious crimes. What is your defense? Lily stood up. Rascal stood with her, his small body radiating protective aggression. She looked around the chamber, at thousands of beings waiting to hear what a 12-year-old human would say. I'm guilty, she said simply. The coalition side erupted in satisfied murmurs. I stole coalition military intelligence. I broke into their headquarters. I attacked their admiral when she tried to stop me. I did all of that, and I would do it again. Vorn smiled triumphantly. You hear her confession. Justice demands— I'm not finished, Lily interrupted. Vorn's smile vanished. I did those things because I discovered the coalition was planning to invade and subjugate everyone in the Outer Rim, including my home, including my family, including thousands of settlements that never did anything wrong except want to live free. She pulled up the invasion plans, the same data she had stolen months ago. The Coalition talks about bringing civilization, but these documents show the truth. They plan to kill anyone who resisted, enslave the rest, and strip our worlds of resources. They were going to destroy everything I love. Lily's voice grew stronger. So yes, I fought back. I stole their secrets and shared them with the galaxy. I invaded their base because that's where the proof was hidden, and when Admiral Reth tried to stop me, my friend Rascal protected me because that's what friends do. Rascal growled softly as if agreeing. The Coalition says I'm a criminal. Maybe I am. But what do you call beings who plan genocide and call it civilization? What do you call leaders who lie to their own people for centuries? What do you call an empire built on slavery and conquest? She looked directly at Vorn. I call them the real criminals. The chamber exploded with noise. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The arbitrator called for order, but it took several minutes before the chaos settled. Vorn stood, his composure finally cracking. You dare accuse the Coalition of... An explosion rocked the station. Alarms shrieked. Emergency barriers slammed down across the chamber. Through the viewport, Lily saw one of the Coalition warships firing on Unity 1. Other ships were firing on each other, the blockade collapsing into battle. Treachery, Vorn shouted. The free worlds attack under flag of peace. We're not firing, Elder Sana shouted back. This is your doing. The arbitrator's voice cut through the panic. Energy signatures indicate the attacking vessel is Coalition, but its identification codes are corrupted. Someone has hijacked control. It's a false flag operation. Gray's voice came through Lily's earpiece. He was on one of the resistance ships outside. Someone wants to start the war right now. We're trying to disable the rogue ship, but it's heavily shielded. Lily understood instantly. Someone in the Coalition command structure wanted war more than peace. They were willing to kill everyone on Unity 1, including Vorn himself, to make it happen. The hijacked warship fired again. This time, the shot breached the hull 2 sections away from the summit chamber. Beings screamed and rushed for exits. The carefully maintained order of the summit dissolved into chaos. Rascal barked urgently, and Lily saw why. A piece of debris had fallen on a young alien delegate, pinning them. The chamber was emptying fast, but nobody had noticed the injured child. Lily ran toward them, Rascal at her heels. She tried to lift the debris, but it was too heavy. The injured delegate looked up at her with terrified eyes. Help, Lily shouted. Someone help! Coalition delegates rushed past without stopping. Free World's representatives were focused on their own escape. Nobody was helping, except Admiral Reth. The scarred admiral appeared from the chaos, her powerful arms lifting the debris easily. She pulled the young delegate free and checked them for injuries. Then she looked at Lily, and for a moment their eyes met. Why? Lily asked. I thought you hated me. I do, Reth said bluntly. You humiliated me. You scarred my face. You and that beast have caused me nothing but suffering. She looked down at the injured child, then back at Lily. But you also showed me something I had forgotten. Courage is not about following orders. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Another explosion rocked the station. Reth handed the injured delegate to another Coalition officer. Get them to medical, then evacuate this section. She turned to Lily. Can your resistance forces disable that ship? Not without help, Lily admitted. Reth activated her communicator. All Coalition vessels, this is Admiral Reth. The attacking ship is compromised. Coordinate with resistance forces to disable it. That is a direct order. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Coalition ships began changing their targeting, working with the resistance fleet to isolate the rogue vessel. Working together, they overwhelmed its shields and disabled its weapons. The battle stopped as quickly as it had started. Later, in the damaged summit chamber, with rescue crews still pulling survivors from debris, the truth emerged. A faction within the Coalition military command had tried to assassinate Vorn and trigger a war that would cement their power. The plot had failed, but it had exposed fractures within the Coalition that could no longer be ignored. Vorn stood among the rubble, his ceremonial robes torn and dusty. He looked old for the first time, tired and worn down by centuries of maintaining an empire through fear and control. The charges against Lily Chen are dropped, he said quietly. She is pardoned for all crimes, real or alleged. And the invasion plans? Elder Sana demanded. Cancelled. All of them. Vorn looked at the assembled delegates. The coalition will withdraw from disputed territories and enter good faith negotiations about the future of galactic governance. We will reform, or we will fall. Those are the only options left. He looked at Lily. You were right, child. We became the criminals we claimed to oppose. It took a 12-year-old human and her impossible animal to show us what we had lost. Rascal, still at Lily's side, yawned and sat down. He looked profoundly unimpressed by the galaxy-changing events happening around him. 3 months later, Lily stood on the landing pad at New Haven, watching familiar red clouds drift across the alien sky. Mr. Patterson was waiting, older than she remembered but smiling wider than she had ever seen. Welcome home, kid. Rascal jumped into his arms, licking his face despite the old man's protests. Lily laughed and joined them, hugging them both. She had offers waiting back at Crossroads Station. The Resistance wanted her as a permanent symbol. Earth's government wanted her to attend diplomatic training. Dr. Rivers wanted to study Rascal's biology further. Everyone wanted something from the girl who had stopped a war. But what Lily wanted was simple: to be home, to be a kid again, to let Rascal get into trouble stealing food instead of fighting assassins. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not primitive, not easy to control, and definitely not afraid of impossible odds. And the most dangerous thing in the known universe was not a warship or a weapon. It was one kid who refused to give up, and her honey badger who refused to back down. Together they had changed everything. And somewhere out there, on stations and worlds across the galaxy, other beings looked at their own oppressors and thought, if they can do it, maybe we can too. The revolution Lily and Rascal had started was far from over. But that was someone else's story now. Right now, she had more important things to do. Like explaining to Mr. Patterson why Rascal was already digging through the food storage again, and why that was perfectly normal for the most dangerous duo in the galaxy.